Hello, and welcome to another broadcast for Project CSK. I almost said development broadcast just because I'm so used to saying that right now. But anyway, today's going to be a bit different in terms of the broadcast. It's going to be a online gameplay session where I'll be playing with the players and potentially yourselves in the online classic Flash client game, which is the predecessor of the project, which we are building onto and away from, branching off from it into the new Unity cross-platform client. Now, of course, the Unity cross-platform client is not yet completed, and it's still got quite a ways to go, but there's been some really good progress on it, and it's something that I'm quite pleased with, and I've been having a lot of fun with working on it, and specifically like what I was working on recently is the particle effects using the Unity particle effect system, which is pretty fun. And if you've seen it, I actually did a dev journal, this one here, where I went and I discussed kind of what I did in terms of the particle effects to show you what we're currently working on. Let me make that a bit bigger. Right, so here's kind of the basic effect, and then I showed a animation, like intro animation of when you like place your explosive, and then when the explosive explodes, it has an animation on itself, so it uses the animation curve, and then there's also the combination of all of it together looks kind of like that. So it's pretty cool, and it was really fun to figure that stuff out and make it work. And of course, this is kind of what it looks like if you were to take one snapshot out of it. So that's a lot of stuff going on. It's very quick, so you see it like this. It just comes in and goes out very quickly, and that's how it's supposed to be because, well, obviously you don't want the effects to be there too long because they affect your ability to see kind of what's going on. So we don't want anything to negatively impact the user's vision for an extended period of time. But something that's that quick and it looks kind of like this is pretty good. Like, and it looks really good, and it's very performant in terms of resources that it takes. And I haven't even fully begun optimizing this yet, and that's something that I'll be working on in the future, of course, and hopefully improving on it even more. I'm sure we'll be able to get the performance up to some degree, but to what degree exactly, I don't really know, because I'm figuring this stuff out as I go along, because it's new to me too, right? Like to make something like this in Unity is it's an interesting experience, and one that I've been experimenting with quite a lot to just kind of, both learn and explore my creativity to see what I can and can't do with Unity. Chances are I can do a lot more with Unity. It's just a matter of learning it and kind of figuring these things out. But anyway, so I usually do write these dev journals periodically for those that may be interested to see kind of where the progress is in terms of where the project is at right now. And it's something that I do quite often from time to time. But today isn't really about the development. It's about gameplay, which is why I have the old Flash client up and running, and I'm just waiting for some users to hop in, and we can play online. I did invite a bunch of people, so if you're one of those people who are waiting to jump online to play, by all means, jump in and we can play. We can play either in the game room or we can play in the world. I don't mind, but there's also an opportunity for me to kind of show where the Flash client kind of was and where it all kind of came from. All the UI stuff that you see, so I did that stuff myself. The artwork, I influenced most of it. Actually, I influenced all of it. So it was me working together with an artist, but then I did some of it myself, and then the rest of it was done by other artists. Like, for example, these characters that you see, I did not draw those, but all the UI stuff that you see, the buttons, the scroll bars, the all of the layout in terms of the interface and how it looks. All of that stuff is done by me. The navigation, like the way that it's structured and all of that is done by me. So if we went to the shop, so in terms of the costumes that I did not make this one here. So the default costume, I did not make this one. I did not make that one. But then the rest of them I made. So this one, it's a recoloring of the same outfit. But so I made that one. I made that one, that one, that one. I definitely made that one and that one. This one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. So you can see I drew a fair bit of them, and they were quite challenging to do in terms of costumes and outfits. So it was a good learning experience, and it's something that I definitely had some fun with, because working with vector is very different than working with raster or bitmap, right? It's something that sorry, one sec. Yeah, so working with vector and raster are very different. Vector graphics, one of the nice things about it that I like personally is you can zoom into stuff indefinitely. Where's the... I thought you could zoom, but anyway, let's try it this way then. Right? Like you can see, the more you zoom in, right? I'm just stretching it out, but you could see the crisp clarity of the lines, the gradients, the shading, or whatever you want to call it. You can see all those details that you just couldn't really see before. You can't do the same, of course, with raster. Raster, once you stretch it out, it starts to get pixelated, and it doesn't really look ideal in terms of well, there's only so much information you can work with. And once you have something that's finalized, you have to make the choice. Are you going to have a graphic be X amount of size in pixels? Like, is it going to be like, let's say 128 by 128? Or is it going to be something that's like 32 by 32 or 64 by 64? Or is it a big one that's 1024 by 1024, or whatever the size may be? But whatever size you commit to, you're committed. There is no additional information. Yeah, you can anti-alias it when you scale it and whatnot, but that only gets you so much, right? Whereas vector, like these things, they were drawn at 6,000%, and a lot of them were snapped to accurate numbers in terms of cornering and whatnot. So when you zoom in, it actually looks better in many ways. Of course, the downside with vector graphics is the performance. The performance is terrible, which is really unfortunate, but that's because it puts all of the load on your CPU. It doesn't really utilize your GPU. Even to this day, I don't know of a GPU accelerated system that uses a vector graphics in a way that would make sense to use it in a game. I'm sure some exist, but none that I'm aware of that ever really gained popularity, which was really unfortunate. But yeah, so that's kind of how it is. So then the other things that we have is the community. We have guild. I have a very basic guild. Our guild has a guild wall. We have stats for our guild. So all of this UI stuff, I know it's not perfect, but when you think about it, it's pretty old for how old it is. Like, look at when this guild was created. This was the first guild to be created. It was created back in 2013. Yeah. that's when the guild system was implemented and went live onto the live server. And then from there, what we can do is we can go into the world, which is kind of like an open world, if you want to think about it that way. It's very small in terms of the area that you can walk around in and whatnot, but still, it's pretty good. And then from there, we have our navigation. So we have the community friends guild system. We have the ability to change channel if there's too many people on one specific zone. It gets a little bit too crowded, and the performance really deteriorates on the client side. So once it reaches a certain number, it'll start to overflow the users, and it'll create a second channel, or a third, or a fourth. And then I'll come back to that one. We have our inventory in terms of items that we can use that have various different usages, and they have their own stats. The stats are dynamically generated. So 2 items may not necessarily have the same stats. They could, but it's unlikely, very unlikely. And then we have the quest system where we have quests and whatnot. And then, of course, coming back comes into the pet system and the pets that you can collect, level up, and whatnot. So this would be the original first pet is Peaches. This is the OG pet. This one was something, one of the pets that I used for development, and it's made its way all the way through from initial alpha to beta to this version of the Flash client version. And then the pets, when you click on your pet, then you can go into the more pet related settings. So then we have our pet, we have our inventory. So in terms of items and whatnot, you can equip onto the pet. And these do have requirements. Like when we look at this one, it requires level 5 and requires intelligence of 35. Different items will have different requirements, and they'll give different stat bonuses and whatnot. Inventory, of course, in this case, it pertains to pretty much being able to, like, let's say, use an item to heal mana, can fill up our mana. And then there's, of course, the growth. So this would be the individual, or should I say, the unique stats to this type of pet. This will never change, but this shows you the strengths and the weaknesses for the creature, and it's something that I think is an important part of the overall combat system, so that you know to build onto the strengths and not onto the weaknesses. Like, for example, this is a water-based element pet, meaning its strongest alignment is with water, so you don't want to build dark and fire, of course, just because it doesn't really make much sense. You're not going to get that much benefits out of it. So your pet will actually end up being rather quite weak if you were to go with that. And one of the common things that, of course, some users do is they create their pet and they put all their stats into strength, which is common in a lot of games. It doesn't work that way. That is not how this works in terms of stats for the pets. If you put all of your points into strength, you just ruin that pet, and you're going to have to use a magic capsule, which we do have. So this one here, this will reset your pet. It'll give you back all of your stat points. It doesn't give you anything extra. It just gives you back what you've used, both in terms of the stats on your pets, so whatever points you allocated here, as well as on the abilities. If you upgraded any of these, it'll reset them so that you can learn different abilities and upgrade different abilities. Like for this one, I could upgrade this ability. I guess I don't really meet the requirements for the other ones, but this one. So this one is now max level. In terms of spells, so I still have 4 upgrade points, but I don't really have anything that I can upgrade. And then from there, we also have the pet versus pet stats. So that would be for combat versus another user's pet, or guild versus guild if you wanted to do a guild versus guild type of battle, which can be fun. But to be honest, the combat system, it's too early, it's too early, and it's in its infancy. It never really went that far in terms of development to be able to really explore and kind of get it to where it needs to be. But even though it's still at its infancy, it's still playable. It's still quite enjoyable for those who enjoy a very casual turn-based real-time combat system. So it works very well. And we have then a whole bunch of items that each serve a different purpose and whatnot. And of course, different pets have a different visual appearance and different, different growth stats, so that you could kind of see for yourself. So what I'll do is I'll summon a different pet. So we'll go with Cheesy Puffs. Okay. This pet, if we look at the growth of this one versus the other one, so the other one, water was its strongest. This one, water is definitely not the strongest. So one is heart, so that would be its health. And then the other one, in terms of element alignment, this one is the strongest with light. So light is the highest alignment that it has. So it makes sense to build out light, but that doesn't mean you have to. You can choose different ones. It's just light makes more sense if you want to maximize its specific abilities, or certain abilities, should I say, to get the most benefit out of it. But it doesn't mean that you're completely locked into it. You can still deviate. You can do a hybrid. Let's say you wanted to go with fire and earth, or if you wanted to go with earth and water, you could still do that. It's just, you need to know, kind of understand what you're doing and what's the purpose. Is it a offensive kind of build you're looking for? Is it a defensive? Is it somewhere in the middle? Is it a support pet, so it'll be healing and reviving kind of thing? Or what's the purpose of the pet, right? And there's a lot of different ways you can do them. I'm still waiting for users to jump online. I'm surprised no one's come online. There was a whole bunch of people that said they would play at this specific time, which is why I specifically set this time here. But it seems like either a common thing is that users get the times mixed up, because it's really difficult to organize something that matches with everyone else's time. So that's an ongoing challenge. And Discord, I'm personally not a big fan of how events are made inside of Discord. I think there's a better way you can do it, and probably the better one would be how it's done in Guilded, which is a direct competitor to Discord. I like the calendar view, and I like it that it calculates the time to show it to each user's time zone. So then you're not trying to calculate it. You're not left. You don't leave it up to the user to try to calculate it from the event time to your time to see if you can make it and whatnot. I think Discord really is kind of behind on that specific functionality, and I hope that one day they do incorporate something like that. I mean, it's something that they could definitely do. I just don't know if that's really on the roadmap for them to want to implement something like that. But I think that would be really helpful for something that helps organize events. Because even the event system that they have now, previously they left it entirely up to the users to create plugins or whatever for Discord to manage that entirely on their own, even after all this time on Discord's kind of being such a dominant application in terms of for games and game players and communities. They don't really have an event organizing system, which I find really difficult to understand why. What's the reasoning behind it? I'm sure there's some reasoning behind it somewhere, some point, but why? Because like when I look at something like Gilded, or when you look at any type of calendar system or any type of system that brings people together, right? It usually has a built-in kind of event organization or calendar type of thing that you can share with others. Like again, Gilded, going back to that one, you can have a calendar view of events, and you can just drop it on the date of the calendar, and then users can see for themselves, right? Whereas in Discord, the event system that they've implemented is still rather new, and quite surprisingly too that it's new, and it's not something that really was something that they implemented right off the bat, which I think would have been really beneficial if they would have done that. But I mean, maybe they just had their priorities elsewhere. I don't really know. That's something I don't really know the details to be able to say one way or another. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Anyway, so I'm still, wow, I guess maybe other people didn't understand the time that they agreed on to, but I'm looking for players to jump online. So if you happen to be one of those who are viewing right now on Twitch or on YouTube, feel free to jump online, and we can play in the game room. If you don't have a pet, that's fine. We can play in the game room. But since no one else is currently here, nope. There we go. Since no one else is here, we'll just explore the world a little bit. Because this is the kind of thing that I'm playing with my controller right now. So it's one of those things that I personally enjoy using in terms of game-wise. It's great to be able to use a controller. Currently using the Xbox controller. So all of this stuff is not quite to this kind of visual style, but similar in its aesthetic. We'll be capturing a lot of this and bringing it into the new Unity cross-platform client. So then we can continue to develop onto it from there, including like the way that the shops work. It'll still more or less kind of conceptually borrow the same from this, but it'll look different, and it'll look better. There will be new artwork and whatnot later on. But in terms of the town or the world, if you want to think about it, it's not that big. But it was big enough, or as big as I could make it at that time, given the limited artwork that I had, and just the amount of time it takes to put this stuff together. Because I had to make a tool, so I had to make a map editor, which let's just say had its challenges in itself, to be able to make these maps and be able to make it look in the way that it does right now. So of course the combat is an important core part of the game when you're playing in the world. Unfortunately, controller doesn't work when you go into pet combat, so you do have to use a mouse to click on your enemies and be able to select and target and then be able to perform your attack. Of course, this enemy is very low level, so let's go into somewhere where the enemies are a bit stronger. So from this point on, the enemies start to get a little bit stronger, and they have a multi-aggro radius, which of course means that if you go up close to one, and if you take a circle and you draw a circle around it, any others within the secondary aggro radius would get picked up and be brought into the battle against your pet, or your team, should I say, because it is team oriented. So you click on your enemies, and then of course you can perform your various different attacks, meaning attack, block, counter. These are provided to you by default, and every single pet has them. And this will also be present in the continuation of the development on the Unity platform, because I'm taking this same engine, pretty much the same backbone in terms of the server-side logic and everything, and just building on it, enhancing it, and making corrections and implementing all the other functionality that I wanted to implement that I never really got around to. So combat is very casual, turn-based, but it's also tactical. Like right now, these enemies are not really much of a threat to me. I can just point click and I can easily go through them. I can use a ability to kind of do significantly more damage to them. Abilities, some of them are single targets, some of them are multi-target. So it will vary depending on the ability that you're using. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. So let's go into an area where the enemies are stronger. And we'll just go to the level 10 area. And you can see the artwork, it's basically more or less the same artwork being reused, just because I didn't have a budget. It was whatever I could scrounge up at the time and whatever I could allocate. So the artist at the time did an exceptional job for how little resources I had to be able to compensate them. So I really appreciate the artwork that was done back then. And even to this day, the artwork still looks good, in my opinion, and looks very appropriate, very bright, very colorful, and very much stylized, appropriate for this type of game. Okay, so these enemies are, of course, a bit stronger in terms of the threat that they have in comparison to my character. So let's see. So these enemies are, of course, a bit stronger, both in terms of how much health they have and how much damage they do. You'll notice that their abilities do more damage, but they also have more health. So it takes me more turns of whether it's basic attack or if I'm using an ability to attack, more of that. And you can see they can even counter. They have different abilities. They can block, counter, and there's the block, which significantly reduces the damage taken, right? And then from there, there's of course the bosses. So these would be the bosses. This one here, the Bronze Knight, is notoriously difficult. Huggles is fairly easy, I would say, in terms of the current endgame bosses. It is fairly easy to defeat. It's really the Bronze Knight, the Protector, that makes it a difficult battle. And of course, how much health and damage these bosses do. Kiki is, of course, a spellcaster kind of boss and does a significant amount of damage depending on the abilities used. And again, followed by a Bronze Knight as a protector. And then the final boss that we currently have is this pet here, which happens to be Muffins. So Muffins is the current last boss of the game, and of course protected by a Bronze Knight. So this battle is a difficult one and requires team coordination. Of course, this is meant to be a multiplayer game, so you can't expect to defeat the bosses solo. I mean, sure, if you're a much higher level pet and you have good gear, you can go defeat the lower tier like the lower level bosses, should I say. Those you can defeat, yes, absolutely. You can do that, even though it's not really, you're not going to get any benefits from doing that. But if you're, let's say, helping someone with that boss fight, you can definitely do that. But the way that it was designed and the way that it's always going to be is that it's intended to be a team-oriented game. You're supposed to have coordination. You're supposed to have challenges. You're supposed to lose if you don't coordinate properly and if you don't have proper teamwork and good team composition, meaning you can't be all damage dealers, you can't be all healers. I mean, maybe you can be all healers, but it would take considerably longer. So what you want is to have a hybrid in terms of composition. You want to have someone, one or more usually, one or more usually to be the healers, so that you can keep your team's health up and revive them if they do happen to fall. And of course, you want to have damage dealers. Your damage dealers need to also be built in a way that they can both take damage and survive until they get healed, right? Or or I guess be able to have some kind of healing ability. But healing is intentionally a light base aligned ability. So if you are the opposite of that, let's say a dark element aligned creature or pet, you're likely not going to be suited to have healing ability, because it means you would have to sacrifice a lot to be able to heal or to have the heal ability. But not only that, your heal is not going to be great, meaning that your heal, even if you put a lot of points into it, it'll never be as good as another creature that's more appropriately aligned with the light element ability, so that they can get the full benefits of the heal. And of course, the vice versa is true. If you're a light element aligned creature, you have a pet that's light element aligned, you don't want to build on dark element abilities, because it's not going to do well. You're going to have to sacrifice a lot of points, and the less your alignment is with something, the more points you need to put into it to get it up. So then you're kind of losing out on some of those benefits, and sometimes quite a bit of benefits, because those points could be better used elsewhere, distributed onto something that gets you more value in terms of your pet. But anyway, that's kind of like the basics of the engine. It does seem like there's some users online. I'm not sure exactly where they are, but maybe they're in the game room. Let's see. Do we got a game room going? I think there's users online anyway. Give me a minute and let me see if I can find them. Okay, yeah, there's definitely users online. I'm not sure exactly where they are. Oh, there they are. There's a couple of users. So yeah, there's a lot of things to consider when making this type of functionality, and there's a lot of factors to take into account, of course. And oftentimes some of the challenges, some of the more difficult challenges, you don't really realize until you get to actually implement it. Then you realize, oh wow, this is a lot more complex than I initially thought. Let's see. So I'll just ask them, would you like to play in game room or world? So if it's in world, then we'll just make a party and we'll start defeating some enemies and maybe some of the bosses. Okay, so it seems world. Okay, world sounds good. Okay, so just click on them, party invite, and then click on the other one. I need to wait a few seconds. but I don't actually have that much candy on me. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's no problem. We can do whatever. So we can defeat some easier enemies. We don't have to fight the bosses. That way it allows the users to accumulate candy. So candy is kind of like potions, if you think about it. Oops, clicked on the pet by accident. So candy is like potions. So red candy for health, blue candy for mana, and of course yellow candy for your stamina. That way, what you can do is you can do pretty good in terms of, so in this case, I have healing ability, and these enemies, like when we team up like this, they have no chance against us. There's one of the bugs where okay, it already went by, but so our team is of course quite strong and kind of well suited for fighting bosses. So that's why these enemies are really not that difficult, but this is one of the game types, and I find this very relaxing personally. I usually like to play my own music, and then so I turn music off with the music off command. So the sound effects are still on, not that there's any sound effects in this area, but I leave the sound effects on, and then I have my own music playing in the background, so then I can just play whatever music. And I like that kind of functionality personally. I think it makes sense to allow the users to choose what kind of music they want to play. Of course, later on a mobile device, I'm not sure how that would work, because on a mobile device, I think whatever application is currently running, when you're not running it in desktop mode, whatever application is running will take the entirety of the sound control. So I don't know if you can have another application playing music in the background while you're playing in the foreground with another application or game, and then having the sound effects only. That's something I'll have to look into personally to see how you could achieve that. But on desktop or on any type of system that allows you to run it in windowed kind of mode, you would have that ability, and I like that personally. But this is an important part of the a game, is to understand that. I got frozen. It's interesting to see or to give users a different, completely different game type. So this, of course, is the world with your pets, when you can defeat enemies, you can collect eggs, you can collect all of these items. I'm particularly not interested in them right now, but you can see all of the different items that have been dropped so far. And you can see there's yellow candy, there's blue candy, there's equipment, gear, there's a chocolate bar. Chocolate bar is used to revive a fallen pet, your pet specifically. It can't be used on someone else's pet. So you give your pet chocolate bar, because your pet doesn't actually die, right? It's knocked out. So it's something that I really do try to emphasize in the game, is that you're not actually dying, you're not killing, you're knocking them out, and you're sending them to the shadow realm, and then they come back afterward, which is when they get revived. And this is something that you'll see in the story and in the new version the new Unity cross-platform version specifically, you'll see this come into reality and start to take shape. In that, when you go and do, and when this is, of course, will require the dungeon system, but when you're doing a difficult dungeon, not the easier ones, but the difficult ones that will penalize you for failure or for repetitive failure, if it consumes all of your hearts, if your team is taken out, then what will happen is you'll be sent to the Shadow Realm, just like how these enemies disappear for a while and they come back. Exact same idea. My pet is inside the environment, but same idea. So it's going to be a really interesting mechanic because what it allows is it shows that one, there's more depth in that everybody, in a sense, everybody wants to be the hero, but everybody also wants to be saved, right? So if you think about it, right, in games, in a lot of classic games, traditionally there's the hero and then there's the person that gets saved. But not everyone always wants to be the hero, and it's always nice to know that if you go in a difficult dungeon and you get your team gets wiped and you end up in the Shadow Realm, right? And you're stuck there for real world time. You're stuck there until the timer expires and you're released, or until someone comes and saves you. And I really like that concept personally, because what it allows you to do is be able to risk going to the difficult dungeons, but that risk, you better have some support, and that support is going to be your friends, your guild members, and other players who are going to come and save you. They're going to be your hero. They're the ones who are going to come and save you, and they're the ones that are going to rescue you and then release you from the dark realm. And that's something that's going to be really fun, because the way that I do it. Oh, we got another player. Stream sniped, haha. Well, hello there, Mr. Magic. Hope you're doing okay. Hope you're doing well. But welcome to the broadcast and welcome to the game, or the team, should I say. Glad to have you on board. Right now, we're just defeating some enemies. I think I'll heal you. I think we're just collecting some candies and whatnot. So Jasmine and Glitter Angel can build up on their stock. And then we can maybe go defeat some bosses. You don't need to worry about not having candy right now. I'll heal you guys, and I think that shouldn't be too difficult to do. Cheesy Puffs has a pretty good heal, so I'll heal you guys for now. But then later on, if we do decide to go for a boss fight, it's going to be we're going to need, I think, more healing than me. But I think Jasmine and Glitter both have healing on their pets as well, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah. I like your mushroom pet, by the way, Green Mint. I think that's a great name, personally. But yeah, so what I was talking about is later on, when we get into the dungeon system and the savior system, there's going to be a lot more mechanics that are going to be introduced that just never got around to being implemented in this version of the game, right? And that's something that I'm really looking forward to, but it just takes time. It takes a lot of time to get to that point to be able to implement that kind of functionality. Because right now I'm still learning Unity, right? Like I would say my knowledge level of Unity as a platform, as a development platform, I would say is definitely between junior to intermediate. It's definitely not advanced by any means. With even the limited knowledge that I have, just because of my background, I'm very comfortable with programming and whatnot. So I pick some of this stuff up fairly easily, while the other stuff definitely takes more time. Like, for example, the particle system, using shaders, the way that it deals with 3D and whatnot. What's the other one? Vector graph or something. I forget. But there's a lot of like really powerful functionality that Unity has that I barely know anything about it. It's just scratching the surface. But Unity goes so in depth, and it's something I really like about it, because no matter how much you learn, there's always more. And I really like that. And one of the main things, of course, that I like is that it's a true game engine. Like unlike Flash, and I'm not trying to put Flash down, but Flash was never meant for games. It was not. Like, if you look into the history of Flash, Flash was made for those browser web-based banners and whatnot. They just happened to create the ability to create a button. They built that functionality, and then people took that and started making games. It was supposed to be banners and buttons. Yeah, those really annoying Flash banners that nobody wanted. That was the purpose of Flash. That's what it was created for. But Flash originally, if you go back a little bit further, came from the Shockwave player, right? So the Macromedia Shockwave player is where Flash came from. So from the Macromedia Shockwave player, that was designed for games, and it had GPU performance in your browser way back in the day. So that was the original, right? That was, I think, before even Java implemented that kind of functionality into their Java applets, I think it was called. But anyway, this is going back a ways. Thanks. Thanks for the compliment. You're welcome. I remember those banners. Yeah, we all remember those banners, and they were not great. But what we do remember is how Flash exploded onto the web for being the basically the game platform. And it was really fun. There were some great games made on it, and it's something that to this day, there's just so many that were made that they even made a Flash Internet Archive of to just be able to preserve them. And this happens to be another game that's made in Flash from 12, 13 years ago now. Wow. It's been over 12 years. This game is that old. Wow. And it still holds up, in my opinion. It still looks great for something that's that old. And I really like the vector graphics still to this day. I think it's very appropriate for this type of gameplay. But anyway, yeah. So right, like I was saying, the dungeon system and the savior system, they will bring a lot of different types of mechanics or game mechanics and functionality with it as well. And those, it will really show the overall, I would say, the greater vision that I had for the project back then, that I was never able to implement, both to let's be honest, my lack of experience and just Flash as a platform itself. It wasn't really made for that type of thing. I was kind of envisioning a perfect world scenario where I know it's a little unrealistic at this time, but where Adobe promised us GPU support on Flash, and they did kind of deliver, but not in the way that many people were expecting. They delivered that at the end when Flash already reached end of life. They allowed GPU functionality, which was nice, but none of the older games like this one or any others could benefit from that, because you had to use a completely different method of accessing the GPU functionality, which just, in my opinion, was too little too late. and Flash was already out the door at that time. And Flash, for its peak, though, it really was revolutionary. It really was great, and still a pleasure to work with right now. Even I still like doing graphical, like UI stuff, or doing quick little things inside of Flash or rapid prototyping. I've mostly moved to Unity now for that kind of stuff. But for something that's rapid prototyping, using ActionScript 3 and being able to draw and use your code in the same application is really powerful. Unity does not have those kind of tool sets, as far as I know, that has that kind of intuitive, simple, easy to use tools where you can just draw and code in the same application without ever having to leave it. So that was definitely one of the strengths of it. It doesn't feel 12 years old, not gonna lie. I know, right? It really does feel that way. 2010 Flash games. Yeah. Well, there was a lot of great Flash games. Oh, I think we lost somebody? No. Oh, I think, probably went to just kind of clear the screen or whatnot. But yeah, there's a lot of great Flash games, and they were a big part of my inspiration for this. And one of them, I don't know if you guys remember, but there's this one, they changed their name, but in the end, they were called OMG Pop. They were great. Welcome back. Not sure exactly where you went, but so OMG Pop was really, to me, the peak of Flash in being able to create a centralized kind of social environment where you can have multiple different types of gameplay, right? And they did it so well. They eventually sold it, of course, to another company who basically didn't have the same vision and couldn't execute, and eventually was their downfall, which was unfortunate because it was really a popular platform, and many people have tried to bring it back and kind of rebuild it to a degree, but they just don't have the same resources and momentum behind them to kind of rebuild that kind of social environment, really. So that's something that is difficult to do and requires quite a bit of resources, time, energy, just manpower, or man hours, should I say, to really build a social environment. But OMG Pop, back in the day, that was great. That game, Balloongo, and some of the other games, the Tetris one, and some of the other one, like the rat. Was it the rat racing one? I forget, but they had some really good games that were just so good. Like, to me, that was not completely, but a part of some of the inspiration that I borrowed from to make this Tetris. Yes, that was great. Thank you. So Tetris was great on there too. And who doesn't want to play multiplayer in an environment where you can play different games? Oh, hi, Zach. How are you doing? Hope you're doing well. Welcome to the broadcast. We're just kind of playing and having a little bit of fun and just kind of talking a little bit about the history. Anyway, how are you doing? Hope you're doing well on this nice toasty day and staying cool, hopefully. But yeah, so OMG Pop was great, and I really liked that. That's why that's. Like I said, it was part of the inspiration, not the entirety of it, but because inspiration comes from different places at different times, right? So it was part of the inspiration for when developing this game to build more than one type of gameplay. I think that's really powerful, and I can't emphasize that enough for this type of game, to have not just like a mini game that is kind of a game but not really a game, but to really have completely different types of gameplay. So you build your server logic up in a way that's intentionally designed to support that, right? And when you do that, right, then of course it takes more time to build it up, which is why it took me a massive amount of time to build up the server side logic for this game. But it's one of those things that if you build it, you really do get the benefits from it. And it's something that I think OMG Pop did really well. And something that I personally enjoyed playing, something that I think countless other people enjoyed. And hopefully there will be another one similar to that in the future of... be right back. Gonna sell. Okay. Yeah, no worries. Hopefully there will be more of those types of games. But the thing is that building a multiplayer game, however level of complexity you think a single player game is, take that and multiply it by 10 is when you're talking multiplayer, right? The complexity, the amount of things that you have to factor in, synchronizing, storing the information on server-side logic, doing account or client-side predictive movement and whatnot. If you're going to go that approach, which I didn't, I completely ditched that concept. I tried it, and I was like, nope, not going to happen. Moving on, right? There's just so many things, right? But then the other challenge is that you can lose a connection of a user, whether they lose their connection, they have interruption due to ISP, or they disconnect or they exit the application or their computer crashes or whatever that may be. You can lose a user at any moment in time in the middle of an action. Like, let's say you're casting a spell, right? In this particular case, you're casting a spell, right? Okay, fine. But a spell has different states. It has a starting, it has kind of a cast, it has the projectile, and it has the kind of the results of it. All of those are different states. So a spell could have something like 4 or 5 different states, which are each their own phase, if you want to think about it. So it goes one state to another, to another, to another, which is something that if you're to lose that user and they disconnect that state, what do you do? Right? You have this state build up that's supposed to go into the next one and the next one and the next one. So you need to safely execute it. But if you're in battle, what happens if you exit out of that? Okay. Yeah. Go for it. I need to clear this screen real quick. Okay. Cleared. So yeah, it's going to require you to build very fault tolerant logic that will basically be able to lose a connection at any point and not crash the server, because that is the worst thing that can happen to a server, is for it to crash and to crash a thread. Because if you crash one of the server threads, right, then your server is kind of like limping, right? Instead of like walking on 4 feet, like or whatever, it's probably actually more like a spider or an octopus, but it's still somewhat functioning, but it's not really functioning at that point. It's limping at that time. And not only that, because you have a thread that's crashed, it will likely result in more stuff crashing afterward, and that's definitely not desirable. Right? So those are things that add some complexity to it. And then another factor that's really important to take into account is that latency. Latency is like currently the crutch or the bane of the internet, because different people are in different parts of the world, and there's nothing wrong with that. We all have different internet providers. We all have different internet speeds, upload, download bandwidth. We share our internet with family members or whomever it may be. So your internet pipe, your bandwidth that you have is split between not just one user, but multiple. So let's say you're downloading or you're playing a game, or a family member is doing something else, installing an application, or whatever they may be doing, or they may be streaming, or they may be watching a stream. All of this stuff consumes a little bit of that bandwidth pipe that you have, right? To play games, you need the best bandwidth you can get to have the fastest round trip or ping, if you want to think about it. But really, it's about sending the information from your client over the internet to the server, to have that information be processed, and then have the server send it through its ISP, right, back to your ISP, and then back to your client, which then takes it and processes it and shows you the visual results of that. So this is really difficult because different people are going to, and even conceptually understanding this and the challenges of it is a challenge in itself. It took me quite a while to understand why things were the way they were. And I'll get to another one of the interesting challenges with it in a little bit. But so what happens is that, let's say your internet speed or your ping will continuously spike. It's never consistent, right? It's continuously fluctuating up and down, and you can see this by going to one of those test my internet things, and you can look at the jitter. Jitter specifically shows your internet spikes, the highs and the lows, right? So it's never a consistent thing, which is why local internet or intranet is obviously going to be zero latency pretty much, or close to it, and you'll get the best results. But we're all playing over the internet, so you have to play with the jitter and the latency that comes with it, right? So let's say you perform an action, right? And your round trip is going to be, let's say, 500, but it could be, let's say, of that 500 milliseconds, right? Let's say 400 of it is you sending the message to the server, but then the other 100 is the server synchronizing that to both yourself and everyone else, right? So it's never consistent, and it's different for everyone. Eventually, of course, as the internet grows and we start moving away from the subpar internet that a lot of the infrastructure currently is still based on, latency will get a lot better. Your ping will start going down because some people get ping like from different continents to where this server is, because there's only one server. Some people experience a ping of, I would say, 1 to 2 seconds even, right? Which is a lot in terms of internet gaming. It's too much. But on a casual basis like this, you can do that. But if you're playing, let's say, something that's real-time, fast-paced, like a first-person shooter, or let's say a Dota type of game, like Dota 2 or something, you want your ping to be as fast, meaning as low as possible. So the commands that you send to the server and the synchronization that comes back is near instant, right? Otherwise, it could mean winning or losing in that game, and that's something that is very challenging to take into account. We, for the most part, we use the TCP/IP socket protocol, which is a binary socket connection, so you don't actually lose packets. So if a packet fails, what will happen is that it'll try to resend it again and again and again and again and again, and the other packets, the other actions, will build up in a backlog, and then once that one that failed goes through, then the rest of them all of a sudden will just flood through, which is why if you experience internet jitter and you get really bad ping for a period of time, you'll see everything kind of like freeze, right? And then all of a sudden, everything zips across the screen really fast. That's catching up to all of the packets that were backlogged before that are now being caught up on, which is something that is very common when you're experiencing a poor connection, or most of the time it's the user's computer or the user's internet, and then rarely it's the server ISP and the server itself. If it's being, let's say, DDoS attacked or something like that, it can happen. So you can get denial of services and just subpar connections, which is, it does happen. It's unfortunate, but it does happen. And then another thing that I had to learn the hard way. So there's this thing called ACK or ACK, which Windows had built in from the old dial-up days. It's because they were trying to optimize the packets, right? Because every packet that you send, every command that you send to over the internet has a header. That header is a cost, meaning in terms of bandwidth consumed, right? So what they did is they came up for its time. It was a good idea, right? What they did is instead of sending just one packet after another, so it would have a packet header and a packet body, right? So that's one message. And then the next one, same thing. And the next one, same thing. Every single one of them has a header cost associated with it. Instead, what they did is on the client side, they just put a bunch of them together, said, here's this packet, here's this one, here's this one, here's this one, right? Group them together and then send them as one pretty much, right? So what that does is, and I'm not getting into the technical details because I only know it to a basic extent myself, only enough to understand that this is what they did and this was their reasoning. So then that reduces the overall size. It gives you some benefits. But what that does is that it creates an extra delay on the client side. What does this delay mean? So this delay means that so now the message that you're going to send, the action that you're going to send to the server is now going to be delayed. Doesn't matter how important that message is, it is now going to be delayed before it even gets sent over the internet to the server, right? So you have this delay, and I think by default it was 500 milliseconds, if I'm not mistaken. So that means that to send packets, no matter how real time you wanted it, you couldn't. The only way around it was one, is to send a packet that exceeds the minimum requirements. So it would have to be broken up. So that means you're adding extra fluff onto the packet. Or the other one being was that there was this command that you could kind of add when you're creating socket connection called, I think it was TCP no delay on some platforms or something like that, where it just brought that down to 0. Now there was a Windows hack you could do, which is to go into your registry and modify that 500. And this is something that a lot of us did, including those who were playing World of Warcraft back in the day, because they had the same complication, right? So what they did was they would go and modify the registry to take down this 500 millisecond automatic delay down to 0, right? That way, your packets, instead of being backlogged, so instead of having a backlog of actions, they get sent real time over the internet to the server. So you're removing that initial 500 milliseconds is a lot for a real-time game. For a game that's not real-time, let's say you're playing one of the card games like what's that other one? Something Hearth. I can't think of the name right now. But let's say you're playing one of the card games. It doesn't really matter, right? A half a second delay or a second delay or even a 2-second delay is not the end of the world, right? But when you're playing something real time, like a first-person shooter, it's pretty much the end of the world. You can't play some games. You just can't play them properly. So anyway, I'm kind of going off on a tangent here, but really these things, there's just so many factors that need to be considered when creating a multiplayer game. Performance, optimization. I DC'd while Des was talking about internet stuff. LOL. Yeah, that's definitely something that does happen from time to time. It's just the way it is, right? And you can't really do anything about that. And welcome back, by the way. But yeah, it's interesting. Wait, are we missing Who are we missing? Mr. Magic, Glitter, and Jasmine. There we go. So yeah, it's interesting, and to be honest, it's part of the fun is to figure this stuff out, because I had no idea about any of this stuff when I was making this, because like I didn't know this stuff. This project was meant to be a learning experience, and that's exactly what it ended up being, and it was a really good one at that. And I mean really good. I learned more with this project than I have done working as a developer, as a web developer for another company, like, and all the other stuff that I've done. I learned more working on this one project than everything else combined at that time. This project is basically what took me from what I would say someone who was junior level to someone who had an intermediate understanding of how this technology works and why it is the way that it is, and be able to implement maybe not the greatest solutions, but to be able to implement solutions that result in a playable game that you can see in front of you. This is the result of that knowledge, right? Of that knowledge being kind of built up over time. But yeah, it was great. And I'm taking all of this knowledge and everything, and we're rebuilding the Unity version, which I'm so looking forward to. I really actually quite enjoy working out. I know when I do those broadcasts, it's not really everyone's cup of tea, let's be honest, right? It's for some people watching me doing development, like real development, it's not interesting for a lot of people. And that's fine. I get it. I totally respect it. But for me, from my point of view, that is really, really fun. Like to do that kind of stuff. I know I'm a little strange like that. I like to make stuff. I like to learn stuff, and I like to have fun with it. I mean, who doesn't, right? Like, think of it this way. Like, it's a similar kind of fun I would compare to, let's say, building or playing Minecraft, right? You're building stuff in Minecraft. You're collecting resources. You're learning how it works. You're learning the mechanics. You're learning the rules of this virtual universe that you're in. You're learning all of that stuff, right? But then you're taking it and you're making something out of it, right? And what you're making, you share with other people. You can team up with other people and play, and that just adds another whole level of social interaction on top of it that makes it so much more interesting, right? That is fun. That is fun because it's fun to play, right? For me, from my point of view, that same thing is the creation process. There is no limit. This universe, this virtual sandbox of creation, this virtual universe that I'm manifesting from my own imagination has no limits. It's whatever you want. It's your own personal playground. And I choose to make this type of thing so then I can both learn from it, have fun making it, of course, and then in the end, similar to Minecraft, right, share it with all of you guys, and we can play together online, and you can see what I've made. You can play it, we can have some laughs, we can do whatever that you want to do within the game, right? So that's the fun stuff. For me, I know it's not everyone's fun. Honestly, I like seeing those streams when I do have time to watch them. I understand it can be interesting, but again, it's really, those are more of a kind of the behind the scenes. You can see what I'm working on, and some people will just jump in to say hi, which is great. Like you, Zach, comes in periodically, says hi, and some other people, which is great. And then I also archive it for you guys onto YouTube So it's simultaneously cast onto Twitch and onto YouTube. So I archive it onto YouTube for you guys. If you want to just like, if you can't make the broadcast or whatever, you can just glance at it, just go through it, skim through it, kind of see what it's about, right? And see the sections that you want to see, or just, skim through it just to kind of so you get a general idea of what's being worked on. And that's it. It served its purpose. That is its purpose, is to show you kind of behind the scenes. And part of it also came from the broadcasting came from, I used to get asked a lot, how did you make this game? What are some of the challenges? What are some of the technologies? How did you do this specific functionality? Or how does this work? Or why does this work the way that it does, right? These kinds of questions are perfectly legitimate questions, but I cannot, in a sentence or a paragraph, or let's say, a 1,000-page essay, explain some of this stuff for it to be interpreted in the way that it's intended. You have to see it. You have to experience it. And what better way than to show you directly through a broadcast where you can interact with the person making it, right? So that kind of serves a multi-purpose, right? And then, of course, we can do broadcasts like these, which I would like to do more of, where we can just jump online and we can play, right? Right now, of course, we're playing with the Flash client, but later on, when the Unity version of it, right, catches up, and it will eventually get there, we'll be playing this on the Unity cross-platform client, right? And you won't be limited to just playing on your desktop, right? You can play it on your phone while you're out and about, or sitting on the couch, or whatever. You can be playing it on, your Android TV. You can play it on your Windows machine, your Mac, your iPhone, your whatever, your Steam Deck, anything that Unity can export to, you can pretty much play it on. So I prefer experiencing over reading essays anyway. LOL. Yeah, absolutely. We're all like that. Like when it comes to reading technical stuff, that's why I try to keep my dev journals that I do. I try to not make them too wordy, even though it still happens, and I can't completely avoid that. It does happen. I'm sorry. Sometimes you have to put the words in and they go where they go, right? But I'm like that too. I go onto YouTube when I want to see tutorials. I actually like to make tutorials. I'm working on one right now, actually, which will be my first tutorial that I've made for YouTube. So hopefully that'll go up in the next few days or so, or maybe even tomorrow, as early as tomorrow, but we'll see. But YouTube is a great way of visually showing someone. So you're talking about it, but you're also going through it and showing them, right? That is a lot more educational than, reading something. And that's part of the reason why I didn't used to do very well in school back in the days. One, the curriculums that were available back in my day, which was quite a while ago, were quite boring, to be honest, right? And I'm not trying to put the people down, but the person teaching it, they're doing the same thing over and over and over and over. There's no energy, right? There's no excitement, and they have to teach what they have to teach, right? They can't deviate from the curriculum. They have to follow it, right? So what that results in is these really over-wordy textbooks that are okay, but really you could take those and shrink them down considerably, right? And get the lessons, get the value of the lessons, get the educational value across in significantly less words and in a better way that that can be better retained by the students who are consuming this information. And that's what they're doing. They're learning, and learning means consuming the information in a way that is digestible for that individual, because every intellect is different, right? There's some things that I will learn really well, really quickly, right? And I've said this many times, right? There's some things that I am terrible at. It will, like, I am so bad at learning some things that my learning curve is just, it is what it is, right? The point being, though, that we're all unique. We're all different. Like, some people are more artistically creative. Some people are more logical thinkers. Some people are greater at math. Some people are terrible at math, me being one of them. And many other variations, right? So you can't have a one-size-fits-all kind of education. Oh, that's a lot of enemies. You can't have a one-size-fits-all education. It doesn't work in the way that you think, right? I mean, yeah, it kind of works, but not really, not that well. But if you tailor something in a way that is specifically meant to be retained in the way that it's intended, it's not going to be perfect for everyone, but it will get better results. And YouTube is proving that. It is proof of that. And it's doing a really good job of it. And I want to contribute in that manner, right? And that's part of some of the things that I like to do. I like to share this kind of knowledge that I've obtained over time, right? I don't have to be the best at anything. Everybody who knows something can share it to someone else who may not know that information, right? That's just the way that it is. It's just the way things work, right? And sharing knowledge is an important part of being a part of society and the human species as a whole. Because if you have knowledge and you're not sharing it, guess what happens with that knowledge when you reach end of life? Yeah, you already know the answer to that, right? And that knowledge doesn't always have to be something technical. It could be something creative, like, how does a certain art style work? How do you do this? How does a certain musical style flow, right? How do you get into the creative mindset to write a novel, right? How do these mathematical equations come to being, not because of what the equations are, but what was the original cause resulting in the equation that was necessary to solve a mathematical challenge, right? All of these things have value, right? So anyway, so that's kind of, again, I went off on a tangent. Sorry about that. But so these kinds of things, I personally see great value in a lot of these things, like YouTube as a means of education, even though if you read up on the history of YouTube, so a lot of these things, ironically, originated as something else. How many of you, and I'll give you a time to think about it without searching it, know what YouTube's original purpose was from the original creator? What was YouTube used for? What was it intended to be? I'll wait for that answer. Anyway, so yeah, there's a lot of things that are interesting. They start out as one thing, but they end up being something else entirely. It's really interesting. Yeah, Glitter Angel, you're right. It was meant, YouTube was meant for online dating. That's exactly the purpose of YouTube from the original creator. You, meaning you putting yourself on the tube. I don't know what the tube means, but it was meant for online dating and matchmaking. That was the purpose of YouTube. And where is it now? All right? Like, you think about it, it's quite far from its origin, right? Like, it's like not even in the same realm, right? How many people right now actually use YouTube for dating purposes? I would say the number is very small, probably close to zero, right? Because it doesn't even make sense to use it for that, right? But the original creator, right, that made it, right, that's what the purpose of it was, right? Just like how Flash was meant for advertisement, right? But it ended up being a gaming platform, right? It was still used for those really annoying advertisements, right? But it ended up being a gaming platform, right? So it's really interesting to think about that stuff, though. For me, from a developer point of view, right? I There's a lot of these things that I don't even know, right? Some of the trends they change. Like right now, TikTok is really popular. Facebook was popular for a while. Right now, it's just gotten so much bad publicity that they even changed the name. They didn't change it because of some master game plan. They changed it literally because of the bad publicity. That is the reason why they changed the name, and it's a terrible name. Like, he went and literally stole the name from others and now is in constant court battles trying to win that and just throw money at it to make it go away, right? Didn't really put much thought into it. But Facebook served its purpose for a while. Before Facebook, MySpace was really popular. Before MySpace, there were other platforms that were popular. For me, I never really enjoyed social media. I used it for maybe like a month at most, and then I just lost interest in it. I was like, I would rather learn stuff, play video games, and make stuff, right? Or learn how to do stuff, kind of thing. I was always interested. I always had that kind of a mindset with this stuff. And that's just because it's just the way that I am, right? You can't really change that. We are who we are. But anyway, so yeah, like I was saying, though, a lot of these things had different origins. So here's a question for the current team. I remember MySpace times. Yeah, MySpace was interesting. Do you guys want to maybe try something else? Like, we can go, I think we should have a strong enough team maybe to do a boss, or we could play in game rooms, or we can just continue doing exactly what it is that we're doing right now. I'll leave that up to you guys. Oh, I'm out of mana. I'll leave that up to you guys to decide, but just let me know. I have enough candy now. Okay, I'm down for a boss. Okay. Okay. So I take it as you guys want to do a boss fight then, because we can definitely do that. I think our team is strong enough to be able to do that. My inventory is full. I need to dump some of this stuff. Okay, just let me know. I need to sell stuff. Okay. So the next question then, if you guys want to do a boss fight, which boss do you want to do? Do you have any quests, like the boss quest, like the Bronze Knight for the Magic Capsule quest, or what exactly? Just let me know what you guys want to do, and we can do that. You have Magic Capsule quest? Okay. Me too. Okay, so then which boss do you guys want to fight? You just got it today. Oh, okay. Yeah, it is a repeatable quest. If you've reached end of the storyline, it's I think monthly repeatable, if I'm not mistaken. So if you do it, it's when you complete it, of course, is when the counter starts. So on completion, it takes another. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's monthly. I can't even read that. I'm still stuck on top of bunnies and pinks. Oh. Yeah, sorry. Okay. Okay. So it seems like we'll do the boss fight. Just let me know which boss you guys want to do, because the quest I think has requirements. I don't remember it, honestly. It's been so long. I don't remember those details. But just let me know which one you guys want to do, and we can go and fight that boss. All the bosses? Okay. So how about we go to Huggles on the right side first. You guys can go sell whatever you need to clear your inventory, and then we can meet at Huggles, and we can start there and see how it goes. How about that? You guys okay with that? Okay, great. Okay, then. You guys go ahead, and I'll meet you there. You guys go ahead and sell and whatnot, and just meet me at Huggles when you come back. Whoops. Okay, I'll be waiting over here. So I'm right where Huggles is, and I'm just gonna take this opportunity to clear out some of my inventory of stuff that I picked up that I don't really need. And the thing I personally like in games is when you have randomly generated stats. Like, look at this item, right? So this one has health plus, or HP plus 13, MP plus 8. But this one over here, right, is plus 5 and plus 6, right? So you can see that it varies. And all the items vary like that. Like this one is obviously not good, right? But then this one is a bit better. And these amulets, they're from the Halloween event, for those of you that do have them, and they have hidden bonus armor stats as well. It's a very unique item that you can only get during the Halloween event. Oh, I forgot I got this. Totally forgot about that. I was trying to get this one for a while. Definitely not going to sell that. Yeah, I want to get rid of that. We'll use those up. We'll use those. We'll get rid of that. That I don't need. We'll leave the lemon slicer. I don't think I need this. Yeah, I don't think I want that. These, I'll just move them here, and later on too, it'll be nice when there's more inventory space. Later on, and I think it's something that you guys should all pretty much know about at this time, is that there's going to be treasure chests where you can store more stuff into. So you have your carrying ability, right, which will not be this big, of course. This is just for me. It was actually supposed to be bigger for me because I ran out of space so fast. If you are like collecting stuff, it doesn't really work well like this. This is only meant temporary, right? Like for the things that you use, you carry it on you. For the things that you don't want to always be carrying with you, you put them in your treasure chests, right? So they're in safe storage, right? And that will help alleviate the current complication of, because some of this stuff, like if you have scrolls and whatnot, these are valuable, right? You don't want to throw those away, right? You can sell them, yes, of course, and get money back from them. Really, the main things that you really want to always carry with you is chocolate bar, 3 different kinds of candy, And that's about, oh, and alternate equipment if you want some to be able to swap. And that's about it. That's really the things that you need. Other than that, who was I going to put that on? I think I was going to put that on. There we go. Yeah. There we go. So I'm still missing the body armor. Yeah, I still need to get the body armor, and then I'll have the full set. Oh, hey guys, welcome back. So it seems like all three people are back. Just give me a sec so I can switch to my other pet. I'm just waiting for the cooldown. Can we have stackable candies as well? Candies already stack. I'm not sure what you mean. I think you mean a larger stack number. Yeah, no, that's intentional. Originally, what I was thinking of is to put weight onto the items and then have your bag be weight limited. So then if you exceed a certain weights amount, you can't carry anymore. But that system didn't really make sense for this type of game. So instead, I thought, you know what? We'll just go with inventory. The stack size for the candy, I think, is very appropriate because the idea isn't you're not supposed to be able to carry a near infinite amount on one single individual inventory slot, because that kind of defeats the purpose of it. There's supposed to be limitations, and those limitations, everything is supposed to have a balance, right? So there's pros and cons to everything. And that pros and cons means that there has to be an intentional limitation to give something value. If there is no limitation, right, it kind of loses its value. And that's an important and delicate balance with any game mechanic. And it's something that I had to think about for quite a while. I was initially thinking of actually even half the stack size of what the candies are right now. And then I decided, and that's what they were initially, and then I decided to increase it, right, to what they are now. So the values that you see right now are kind of what they are. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, are you guys ready for, oh, we're missing, who do I need to invite? I need to invite Mr. Magico. Okay, so invitation is sent. So we're just waiting for him to accept the party invite again. And then I'm waiting for you guys to give me the ready, go ahead, and then we'll start the battle. Make sure to heal up your pets if you haven't done so already. So we're going in. AFK, yeah, no worries. That's okay. Just make sure that your pets are fully healed up, full health, mana, stamina before we start this battle, because it's going to be a long battle. How are we doing for time? Oh, wow. That time just flew by. Okay, so we got one ready. I'm waiting for Jasmine and Glitter. Let me know when you guys are ready, and then we can get started. I think time-wise, I may only have time to do maybe this one. Oh, no. Jasmine is disconnecting. That's really unfortunate. Sorry about that. Because if she disconnects mid-battle, I think that's going to put us in a difficult scenario. We do need four. I mean, we could possibly still manage, but we really do need 4 people. It gives us a lot more better team composition. Oh, and there she goes. That's really unfortunate. So this is one of those things that I was mentioning earlier, that a user can disconnect at any time. It's not their fault, right? Sometimes your internet ISP will give you a temporary hiccup on the line, and you'll experience a more than normal amount of jitter, which will result in a disconnection. Other times it could be your computer, it could be the application that you're using, it could be your computer crashed, it could be other people, or like there's just so many factors. Like, it could even be other people are using the internet similar time as you are, and they may be like torrenting, which has a pretty significant effect on online gameplay. Torrenting is probably one of the worst, actually, just because it creates so many connections, and it just kills your bandwidth and your ability to send and receive packets very quickly. So that's another thing that it can have a pretty significant effect. But oh, I clicked on the wrong thing. Looks like she's back. Okay. Welcome back. Invite is sent. I think it was my internet. Yeah, it happens. That's okay. Well, welcome back either way. Let's jump into this battle. Because starting to run a bit low on time right now. I think time-wise, I may have just enough time for this battle. I keep flipping through stuff. I may have just enough time. Okay, so everyone's ready. Okay, I'm gonna start it. So let's focus on the Bronze Knight. But I may have just enough time for this battle and maybe one more boss battle, and then that's going to be it for me for time-wise. I'm going to have to go offline then. But I really appreciate you guys coming to hang out and play. And for those of you watching, both on YouTube and on Twitch, thank you for coming and hanging out. I will likely do more of these. I think maybe even like maybe once a month kind of thing. Not exactly, but roughly once a month kind of thing. That way we can all play online. Oh, wow. You just got annihilated. That's kind of unfortunate. So yeah, you just got pancaked. That was it. Like there's only so much you can do at that point. Yeah, like I was saying, I'd like to do more of these. That way, it'll give us an opportunity to kind of bring everybody together and play and have some fun with it. And it'll be something that I think would be beneficial. So if you guys like that idea, definitely follow, hit that like button and whatnot, and we will. Oh, double healed. We'll do more of this stuff, I think, and then later on, of course, we'll be using the new Unity cross-platform client. Which will give you significantly better performance. Because I know for some of you playing inside of the game room, when there's more than 4 people, it gets to be pretty bad performance-wise. It's just the way that it is, unfortunately, because Flash was never that meant to be used in this way, and it's just not that kind of performant in terms of an application for this kind of usage, really. So there's quite a bit of performance that is kind of left on the table to be desired, which we'll get to get all of those benefits later on when we switch over to the new Unity cross-platform client, and we should be able to get on lower end systems, we should be able to get careful. On lower end systems, we should be able to get 60 frames per second pretty consistently. And then later on, of course, in the world as well, because each zone can have up to 60 players at once. So if you think about that, the Flash client, well, we'll see how it goes. I'll benchmark it, of course, and use a proper benchmark instead of just guessing it like I did before. But we'll be able to have significantly more players, and we'll be able to do some interesting things, that's for sure. Heal incoming. Okay. So of course I'm not that concerned about damage because I have pretty good gear, or I have pretty much the best gear you can put on this creature, on my pet, and the stats are about as good as it can be. So I have a lot of health. So even if I take like 500-600 damage in a single attack, it's not a big deal. That would only take out about half. So and of course I have an item that others don't, which is kind of a cheat item in a way, because it's unique and others cannot attain it, which I try not to make those kind of items. The only ones of those that really, a small handful of those, they do kind of serve a purpose. They're meant for development, which is why it's not something that's given to everyone. Because otherwise it would be game breaking. Like, if, for example, I'm sure all of you know about the paper sword that I have. The paper sword is, let's just say, a little bit unbalanced within the game. It doesn't make sense for players to have that kind of item. But for development, it makes perfect sense to have that kind of an item just because of the utility that it provides, which is really important. So I should be helping out my team more in the damage that I'm doing. Okay, there we go. So that's one down. The rest of this battle is going to be easy at this point, because we got the main threat out of the way, because that was the main threat. Huggles is one of the weaker bosses. So at this point, we're pretty much in the clear for this boss. So what we'll do is we'll go from this boss. I think I should have just enough time to do one more boss fight. So if you guys want to go Kiki next, we can go straight from this one, heal up, and then we'll go into that one, and then that'll be the last one that I have time for. Yeah, this boss has a lot of health. The bosses, and that's why it's intentionally designed to be this way, so that we work as a team. That's really important, is to work as a team, and that's a really important part of it is teamwork, right? Because it's a multiplayer game. It's a social game. It's meant to have social interaction. It's supposed to provide you a challenge that you solve together as a team. So these bosses, you'll never really realistically be able to solo them. And that's because it's intentionally designed that way. It's not supposed to be something that you can solo easily, because then that would kind of defeat the value of what this challenge presents. Soloable bosses would kind of take away from the point of of being the last three bosses. Yeah, that's exactly it. And then later on, of course, when the dungeon system comes into play, that will also provide a bit more variety. But what I was thinking with the dungeon system, and it's like way, way farther down on the roadmap. We're not nowhere close to it right now at this time. But that'll provide varying difficulty levels. So there will be, I think, some dungeons that are basic and really easy to do that one individual can do. But that will only be the entry level dungeons. The rest of them, all of them, will require a team, because the dungeon system ties into the savior system, right? And that's also supposed to be team oriented. Like, for example, let's say you and your team go and do a dungeon, whether you succeed or let's say you succeed, right? And then you're like, okay, yeah, our team is good enough. Let's go for a more difficult dungeon, right? Which is very common. You start off with something easy and you go more and more difficult to see how far you can push it, right? And how well your team can work together to overcome these challenges. So what happens is that you go to a more difficult one and a more difficult one, and eventually you take on more than what your team can handle, and your team gets wiped, meaning you're all defeated. So you end up into the Dark Realm, right? So you're all there for the duration of the penalty time. So then your friends are now going to have to go to an equally or similar to dungeon to save you guys from the Dark Realm and be your hero. And you will be saved and returned back to the normal realms, if you want to think of it that way, right? So that all ties in together. And for that to work, there has to be risk. What happened there? She disconnected. Oh no. She disconnected. So this is, again, one of those challenges that you have to deal with. What do you do in this scenario? So from a developer point of view, look at it from my point of view, right? What do you do in this case, right? We've lost one player, right? What do you do at that point? We don't have revive, so we can't revive ankle breaker, right? I need to use one of these. So she just disconnected. Obviously, if we could bring that individual back, did I just see a number? I'm not sure what she meant. I'm not sure what you mean, Glitter. I'm not sure what number you mean, but anyway, so like there's a number of ways we can handle this, right? From a purely a developer point of view, right? One of it being, of course, is to allow the user to bring people back. So if someone leaves the team, they can come back, or if someone gets disconnected, they can come back. But there has to be restrictions around that. Otherwise, it becomes a something that can be misused. And a lot of these things are kind of core system mechanics that you have to think about because it can lead to potentially undesirable results that take away from the enjoyment of the game. If something is meant to be challenging, to put it for lack of a better term, it has to be challenging. There is no, oh, okay, it's challenging, but it's not really challenging because you can do a workaround. No. If it's challenging, it has to be challenging. It can't not be challenging, right? Because then that defeats the purpose of it. I don't know if we'll defeat this boss as to be honest. Actually, no, we should be able to do it. So like I was saying, what would happen if, in this particular case, what would happen if we were to allow users to bring someone else into the battle mid-battle? Well, someone can, let's say, come in as a last second kind of quest. So 4 players can do the entire battle, get the boss down to, let's say, 5 health, right? And then sell that service to someone else and bring them in, and they're here for the last hit, and then they get both the item drops and they get the quest completion, right? So that's one of the side effects, right? The other side effect is if everyone can leave, right? Users can alternate. They could leave and then rejoin, right? Go heal up, come back and rejoin, right? So they can go all the way to town, come back, and then continue the battle again with full items, full everything, full cooldowns, everything. And that, again, takes away from the difficulty of it. And that's just 2 off the top of my head that I can think of, right? So these are things that you have to consider. So what would be an appropriate solution then? Well, if someone was in the team, right? If someone was in the team and they get disconnected, allow only that user to come back, right? So that would kind of still keep it the same, right? But it would have to be a legitimate disconnect, and not, oh, I'm going to disconnect, go back to town, right? Go sell some stuff, heal up, get everything kind of back to, nearly 100%, and then come back into the battle. We don't want that kind of stuff. That takes away from the game, right? So these are just some of the things that need to be considered when developing a multiplayer game, beyond the challenges of just a user can disconnect at any time, right? And have it not crash the server. So beyond that, we need to take these things into consideration. Wow, this boss sure takes quite a bit of time. Oh. Okay then. Wow. Well, great job, team. It was not easy. Initially, I thought we totally had it, and then we lost one, and then we had to disconnect, and then it was like, well, what now? Okay, so if you guys want, I have just enough time for us to do a Kiki battle and fight those bosses, and then I have to go. Even right now, I'm kind of reaching past that time. So off to Kiki then. Let's go. Okay, so let me know that you guys are ready, and then make sure you're healed up too, and ready for this battle. Okay, so we got 1 yes, waiting for 2 more yeses, and then we'll get started. Yeah, definitely be careful with that. You definitely want to be very careful and be on the defensive side. I can see that, yeah, okay. So you need a bit more items, but that's okay. This is the perfect place to get those items. So let's focus the Bronze Knight as usual. Okay, so this boss is a bit more difficult, of course, because Kiki is quite the spellcaster. In actuality, Kiki was supposed to be even more difficult. Actually, all the bosses were more difficult. I brought all of them down. in their health and in their damage. I don't know if you guys remember that, but all of these bosses, okay, be careful. You're about to get, okay, I can't quite heal you yet, but as soon as I can, I will heal you. Yeah. Yeah, you remember. Glitter remembers. But yeah, the bosses used to be a lot more difficult. I'll heal you shortly. Okay, heal incoming. But yeah, so these bosses were way more difficult back then, and I did kind of nerf them pretty hard to get them to where they were. Because initially, I didn't know, right? I had to kind of figure these things out before it was impossible. Yeah, it pretty much was. I'd have to agree with you. It was very difficult to fight the bosses. Uh-oh, someone's gonna get destroyed. Oh, it's me. Okay, that's okay. I can take that. I'll heal you. Heal incoming. Just survive. There we go. But yeah, so, oh yeah, that attack definitely looks cool. And it'll look even better with Unity. I'm going to assume that you guys have read that dev journal that I put up recently on the forum, because that dev journal is a really good place to get information about the project. Okay, so heal incoming. But yeah, the particle systems and the other visual type of effects, I'm going to be leveraging a lot of that stuff, and it's going to look really cool. Actually, I have another one that I can show you guys a little treat, a sneak peek, not of pet combat, but I'll show you another interesting thing after this. So if you guys want to see that, I'll show you real quickly before I go offline. But I'll show you the particle system within the game room. You've seen the explosion. You've seen how the explosion works, but there's a bit more to it than that. It's not completed, and it's something that I'm still working on. But it's something that is going to be pretty cool when it's ready. It's obviously not going to be usable yet, but you'll see what I mean. I don't want to spoil it. I'd rather just show you because, wow, this boss goes down a lot faster with 4 people. Like, just way faster. Okay, keep up the good work, team. You guys are doing great, by the way. Okay. Heal incoming. Oh no. Survive. I just healed. I don't have heal for you right now. Just survive. I'll heal you as soon as I have cooldowns. You have heal? Oh, okay. Maybe you can heal yourself then. Oh, okay. Never mind that. I was looking at the wrong pet. But yeah, with Unity, you can do some seriously cool stuff in the particle effects, the visual effects, using shaders, using all kinds of really interesting things. And the thing that I can't emphasize, I really, really like about it, is that it uses your GPU. It's so nice to be able to push this functionality onto GPU, because the GPU is meant to do those calculations. You don't want to just leave it onto the CPU and just always have the load be on the CPU. The CPU isn't meant for that. The CPU is meant to do certain functionality, and the GPU is meant to do certain functionality. So the things that the CPU is meant for, you put on the CPU. The things that the GPU is meant for, you put it on the GPU, so it takes the load away from the CPU. That's just the way that it works, right? So having GPU capable functionality is awesome. And we'll be able to a lot of like really interesting stuff with it and get really good frame rate. Because my goal is 60 frames per second on low-end devices, not like super low-end, but low to mid-tier modern devices is kind of my goal. That's where my target is. So I'm hoping that we'll get there, and it'll be. We'll see how that goes. Honestly, we'll see how that goes. But it's going to be pretty cool, though. I'm really looking forward to implementing some of those visual aesthetics that I just couldn't do. Like even the heel, right? The healing that you see right now, it'll look much nicer when it's coming from a particle effect and a visual aesthetic similar concept, not exactly similar to the explosion, but conceptually similar in that it uses the particle system and will mix it with some other visuals like maybe shaders or something and do some really cool stuff with it. Right? I intentionally am trying not to go overboard with the visual eye candy because I know for some people it can be a bit too much. So I do want to kind of stay away from that of kind of overkill on it. But it was going to be you know, it's going to be a delicate balance. It's going to be a delicate balance. So we'll see. Either way, it's going to be really interesting. So we'll see. We'll see. Oh no, I just healed. Okay, that's fine. If your health is low on the next rotation, I'll heal you. Never mind, you already got one. But yeah, it's going to be cool. Yeah, particle system is so nice. It's so nice. Okay, I'll have heal up shortly. You'll heal, Jesse? Okay. Yeah, so but it's and I'm learning it too, right? And the more this stuff the more I learn, the more cooler stuff I can make, which is always fun to kind of push the boundaries of what you can make and explore and see what kind of makes sense or maybe what doesn't really make sense. But either way, it's interesting to kind of have the tools to be able to do that kind of stuff. Wow, this boss really takes quite a bit of time. You guys are doing great. Keep up the good teamwork. Keep up the heals, and we'll get there. Okay, I'll have heal up shortly. Oh, okay. You got healed. Never mind. Yeah, I'm not too worried about the damage personally, just because I have a lot of health. Oh, wow. Okay, heal incoming. But yeah, there's a lot of other interesting mechanics that I want to build into the project. And if you're curious about them, I would highly recommend watching the 10th anniversary video if you haven't seen that already, where I kind of explain the roadmap to some degree of the project, of where we're going with it and where we'll be. Okay, I'll have heal soon, or someone else can heal you. Okay. Yeah. So, and one of the other things too that we'll eventually get into is the item system, item crafting, and other types of similar core system functionality that come with that we currently just don't have in the current version. And of course, there's going to be new artwork eventually. That is an ongoing challenge for me that I've been having. Well, basically, I've just been drawing everything myself at this point, but that's not what I want to do. I need an artist, but finding the right artist is very difficult. Finding an artist is very easy. Finding the right artist is exceptionally difficult. And different artists have different backgrounds, different skill sets, and all of that stuff. So it's interesting to it's an interesting journey, should I say, to try and find the right artist for a project. And I'm sure that I'm not the only person who has a challenge with that. There's a lot of other people who also have similar challenges with this kind of a thing, which includes AAA industry companies that make huge games, right? They also face these exact same challenges that have to find an artist that can make consistent artwork that matches a specific style. Not everyone can do that, right? Like you have to, like every artist draws in their own either preferred style or certain styles that they've learned and continue to learn and improve on because it's what they like to do. Not every artist is the same. Yes, exactly. Right, Mr. Magico. Not every artist is the same. That's because not every person is the same either, right? Everyone is different in terms of, what the person can and can't do within their current skill set. Doesn't mean that someone can't learn it. It just means that it takes time to learn these kinds of things. I need to be careful. I'm low on both mana and stamina. I could use I don't know, we're so close. Yeah, I think I'll just use this and then do this. Oh no, terrible timing. I think this is pretty much the end though. Oops, I just realized I had the wrong. Okay, so it should be over soon. And there we go. Okay, well done, everyone. And that was it, the second boss. Yeah, that was good teamwork. That was really good teamwork. And that's what I really want to emphasize for this type of gameplay is the teamwork. You need to have team composition and you need to have teamwork to succeed. That will always, always be an important part of this specific project. And you guys did great. Oh, right. I was going to show you something. So if you are currently watching on Twitch, or if you're watching on YouTube, I'm going to share my screen real quick. And I'm going to show you this here. Okay, so let me know that you're currently watching my screen, and I'll show you this demonstration here. And it's going to be kind of funny, more than a little, but I really like it personally, and I think it's very appropriate. But okay, so you've seen the explosion. So you've seen the bomb. The bomb, okay. So the bomb has the intro, and then it has the explode. I disabled the particle effect, but here's one that I did enable. So here's a KO. Right? So that one is vertical. Let me switch that real quick, and we'll go the other way. Oh, I just closed it, didn't I? So that was to player character. Model KO. Let me show you the other direction. Okay, so we'll go to the right. Okay, this one will make a bit more sense, I think. This is an experiment because you're going to have an explosion, right? So you're going to have the bomb exploding, right? As well as your character being knocked out of the stage, right? So that results in this KO. Right? So this, you get a better understanding of it when it goes sideways, right? So this is a KO. It's not completed, of course, and it's something I'm still working on. It's very early, but it's going to be pretty funny, right? So anyway, that's kind of the idea. So this will be at the same time as the bomb exploding. So the bomb will have its poof, right? And then from that comes the player flying out. So it when you put them together, right, it makes more sense, right? But for right now, like I said, it's still early, but I think it looks pretty funny. Anyway. So I'm glad you guys like it. Kind like Smash Brothers, yeah. Smash Bros definitely does something like that, and a bunch of other games too, right? It's pretty common to have a particle effect coming from a character that gets knocked out, including particle effects are generally used for projectiles like a fireball or something that gets thrown, or spell casting and that kind of stuff. This is just another example of the particle system being used. Yeah, so anyway, so that's going to be it for me today. So for those of you that came to hang out and play, thanks for coming and playing. Great teamwork, everyone. That was great. We had some challenges. I wasn't too sure about the previous boss fight. Near the end there, it was getting a little close, but it was pretty close. But we managed to pull through with some teamwork. And then, of course, future broadcasts will be about game development. But I do want to do this, so keep an eye out on Discord for future online gameplay sessions that we'll be doing of this sort. And maybe we'll have some other people joining in, and we'll go play in the game room for a bit, play in the world, and eventually play with the new Unity client and do all that good stuff there as well. Anyway, so thank you guys, and have a great evening, and I'll see you online. Bye.